today I've got something maybe my audience didn't expect. The Hot Wheels Acceleracers line. I know this is totally out of my realm, no pun intended. But is it? Remember, I did grow up in the early 2000s. I was born in 2005. I watched this at some point on like DVD, like after the fact, like because it would have been off air by the time I was like of age to actually comprehend shows on TV instead of just laughing at the goofy dogs. But yeah, we're gonna cover this set, and I know it might not be what my audience is used to, but we gotta do it, especially since my competitors have not done it. I don't think Lamley Group has covered this. Yeah, I call Lamley my competitor. That's funny. Yeah, I've got two things over Lamley Group. One, Acceleracers. Number two, Saab 94X. But we're gonna take a look at the set here. This is a big moment. Like I said, when I got into the show as a kid, the toys were already out of stores, and eBay wasn't great or anything back then. Not that I could even use it. Not like I had a credit card. So I don't have any models from my childhood. I have a few that I can showcase here that I've acquired after the fact, some older ones. But I never really had that experience buying them in the stores. So for those of you who don't know what Acceleracers are, I'm sure if you don't, you're probably not watching this video, and if you do, you know all about it. But short synopsis, this was the, I guess, follow-up series to Highway 35, which of course came out for Hot Wheels' 35th anniversary, and it was a movie celebrating that. And well, they had cars too. So after that, they decided, wow, that did rather well. Let's make more. And I kind of want to call it a series, but it's not really, because it's 4 1-hour-ish movies, and there was supposed to be 6. The final 2 did not get done. I don't remember what the story is there. I guess the production team, or because it wasn't like actually Hot Wheels making the show, there was a production team to do the animation and all that. Something went under with them. Whatever, so 4 of the 6 episodes were made, and it kind of leaves the 4th one off on a big cliffhanger. The 4th episode is the big climax episode. It's a different style to what the previous 3 were, and shows everybody working together, and there's the big cliffhanger at the end, which they were doing cliffhangers before, but there was a really big cliffhanger, and we're not going to get into that. We're not going to spoil it for anybody. It involves these two, but so yeah, the original, the first Acceleracers came out in 2005, which was a couple years after Highway 35, and it featured some reoccurring characters like this guy right here, Vert Wheeler, but it was a completely different style of race, a little more hardcore, and the Acceleracers video, or the Acceleracers movies, were more like an upper audience, kind of had a little bit of a darker tone to it, and some genuine emotions that they were trying to portray onto the characters and the audience. So the original movies came out 2005 with the models alongside it, and they kind of went through a few phases, because with the wheels, you can see that these wheels are the same style as the Highway 35 models. The Highway 35s had the first generation co-molds here, and it transferred to the Acceleracers for a little bit, but then eventually, let's bring Hollowback back out here, they got like an update, a new style co-mold. I like these much better. These are I think these are a little planned, although these do work nice on the Muscle Maniacs, and I think some of them even retain them. I know the Hollowback here you can get with both wheels. I don't know about the rest of them. Toro's car, which I can't remember the name. Riveted, I should know. I had a few of these as a kid. Not this one, but I know this one's available with both wheels. And eventually these wheels ended up getting reused in the Speed Machines line, as you can see on this Reventon. This one's a little old. I kind of took it in, was maybe going to restore it. I don't know. Maybe I'll sell it off as it is. I do like the Speed Machines line. I don't really have any, but the Reventon is not a car I particularly care for. It's not the best looking Lamborghini. But anyhow, let's dig into these. Pretty excited about these, and I will probably make some mistakes, but whatever. Well, before we get into these, let's take a quick talk about the clues that we had, I guess. Starting last year, of course, with the Teku Diora, which never made it into the original lines, and that's going to be the same theme with that one over there, the Slingshot. Never made it into the original Acceleracers line, so it was a big deal when Hot Wheels decided to just throw this one in the main line all willy-nilly. This car was only used in the first episode, and we'll not discuss what happens to it. Very tragic. I guess that just gave it away, but it does have a nice metallic finish, pearl white. And then the second Acceleracers model in the main line would come earlier this year in 2025 with the racing drone, RDO 6, isn't it? Yes, RDO 6, which isn't exactly the livery. It's a little tweaked, but I mean, the vibe is there. So, well, focus went way out the window. So those were our hints. We knew something was coming up, and with this being the 20th anniversary, they had to do something, and I think they did the best thing they possibly could, except offering more cars. But they said there's a possibility if this set sells well, and from what I've seen, they flew off the shelves. Like, these were all I found. I found one whole set in the store, and that was it. Nothing else. So that's good to see. That means the other set sold, and they normally get them in more than one. They get in more than one box to stock, so that probably means that they sold at least 2 other sets, 1 other case. So, I've teased everybody long enough. I've rambled on. Let's take a look at the Acceleracers. We're going to provide some opinions on these. Not that my opinion really means anything, because I know the fantasy collectors hash it out with the licensed collectors, but today I'm playing both parts. We're going to get into this with number 1 of 5. We're just going to go in order because the Reverb's definitely the best. Following on the bandwagon, Reverb's best. But let's start with the Iridium. This is a silencer car. So if you're new to Acceleracers and want to understand these cars better, there are 4 main groups. The silencers, which they're kind of neutral. They start out neutral, but then they kind of help out with our human characters. You have the Muscle Maniacs, which kind of use old school muscle cars. Well, I hate to say old school because all these cars are literally the same age in terms of the timeline of the movie. They all came out in 2005. They're all designed for the movie. But, more so old school American muscle. And then the Teku guys are more so JDM import, newer styled cars, more technologically advanced. So they race each other on the realms in order to collect the what are they called? The Acceleracers for Dr. Tesla, who they believe is withholding information from them, and I agree, he's a little weird. The 4th team comes in as the racing drones in these green and black cars. They are the villains of the series, and she is the leader, and we'll talk about that in a second. I heard from people in the community that this is not the correct helmet for the driver of this vehicle. So we'll leave it at that. The actual driver of this vehicle I will not say because it might cause some spoilers if anybody's going to go watch these. I highly recommend it. They're very well done, and they're not really childish. So yeah, I guess I'm delaying ripping these off the card because the card art is very nice. You can see them driving through, what's it called? The Wheel of Power, right? No, that's what they're looking for. Geez, I'm blanking. Well, it'll come back to me. Just wait. And I think every car here actually drove through it. These two in the final scene, in the final episode, but the rest of them throughout the series. This was, of course, the home base for the human teams, the actual Acceleracers. But yeah, we'll start out with Iridium here. I feel like, personally, on the Iridium, I feel like it's a little pink. Like, I think it's supposed to be a little more purple than this. And they said they were going to redo the color. I don't think they really did. But it's a little too pinky, I think. And the body, I think, is a little too gray. And that's because the body is just gray. It's not even painted. And you're like, well, they don't normally paint plastic, but they did on the original set. This is where your used and abused cars come into play. Here we have the original Hollowback. You can see the paint chips. This has red paint on it. It's not really good paint. It's some sort of like cheap paint that they dunked them in. But whatever. They're actually painted because the raw plastic is like that almost transparent white. Like it's a strange color. It's almost like how when the grill chips, it's black underneath. This, however, is just silver. It's silver dyed in the plastic, so it's not going to chip and reveal a different color because this is just the raw plastic. So I kind of don't like that aspect of it. And the raw plastic also hurts Hollowback, although the fans say that the darker color is a little more accurate, which I agree. It makes it look a little gritty. But as someone who, of course, deals with painting real cars and deals with higher quality die-cast models, the raw plastic definitely shows through, and it's a little distracting, I should say. It works fine on the black car, and yeah, the racing drone. People are going to hate me if I just revert to the black car. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I do. It's just on the spot. But the Slingshot over here has a metal body, and same thing with the Reverb. So, but yeah, there's your Iridium. There is your silencers decals on the side of them. The silencers too were always like high-tech cars, kind of reminiscent of some of the Teku cars, which is a whole theory behind this guy. This one gets the clear wheels, and then of course the new wheel design here is supposed to replicate the original coal molds. These are not coal molds, by the way. They're just purple with silver detailing. But of course they are supposed to replicate the coal molds, like the Speed Machines and the Acceleracers had. And the Ferrari Racers. Great era for Hot Wheels. Very nostalgic. This one does get white painted headlights, which is pretty cool to see. The black metal chassis. And just a very cool design. Now this era of Acceleracers, or not Acceleracers, but Hot Wheels fantasy cars were done very well to look real. I mean, besides the RD06, I can't see that car existing. And this one I could barely see existing. The only pass would be like it would be an Audi concept car, because it does kind of look like an Audi concept car. If you know which one I'm talking about, you know ball. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool how the spoiler's on the roof there and creates these air ducts, which again was a little ahead of its time actually, because you know we saw something similar to this on the 2017 Ford GT. But yeah, super cool car. The rear end kind of looks like a Toyota Will, but that's just me. Really cool. And there is number one of the set. This is a big moment. How Acceleracers is having their birthday the same month as me, and it's hard to compete. It's hard. We're both turning 20 in the same month. That's crazy. Here we have Slingshot, driven by Kurt Wilde. He was one of the returning characters from R35. Highway 35. Jeez. What an awesome tribute. And this car was never released in the original line, like I said about the Diora. So they left out the two Teku cars that were only in the first episode. And the only two cars that returned from Highway 35, other than the Roadrunner, which was driven by Toro. But here with the Slingshot, I actually don't have any other Slingshots, like even from my childhood, which is kind of crazy. Because this car was everywhere back then, and all the play sets, and people loved it. This example is the retool, which came out sometime in the past couple of years when Hot Wheels cheaped out. Well, it says 2001, so that's not going to help me. I don't know when it was retooled, but it was the older casting used to have like an air passage through the back here, but now it's all sealed. But this car was used pretty heavily in Highway 35 as well as the Acceleracers, receiving a few different looks. The Acceleracers, or the Highway 35 car could like color shift as he would switch sides. But so we got the Teku graphics on the back here. I don't know why it says clone. I'm not sure what the significance there is, which does kind of emulate the silhouette or the Slingshot's use in Highway 35. Got blue interior, chrome interior, blue windows. Jeez, and this thing's just cool. I like that they painted the taillights. That's a good touch. This is just phenomenal. It is not pearl like the Diora is. It's not really gonna make a difference. You know, if you look at them from far away, they both look white. But the Diora's definitely got that pearl to it, which gives it depth. While the silhouette is just... Or, why do I keep calling it the silhouette? It's not an Oldsmobile. The Slingshot is just a straight white. Teku on the front there. This is big for a lot of people, and it's so awesome to have. Finally. Next, the Hollowback, driven by Torque, the leader of the Muscle Maniacs. Gotta, like, take these pauses, because you know I'm gonna say something, like, completely wild, no pun intended, and not gonna make any sense. So I gotta take it slow. But Hollowback here, I actually have two of the originals, both of them in pretty mediocre shape. This is nice because it's kind of a redo. Well, of course it's a redo, but it fixes some inaccuracies with the original release. That being the black hood, the black trunk, and then... Oh, did they remove the little splitters on the front there? I think those are... These little splitters are black on the movie car. This one, they kind of just smoothed them out, which is weird. The depth isn't there for the splitters. But yeah, it definitely makes the car look a lot better, adding the black panels like it should have had. And it looks very dull with the side decals removed, but this one's a little better. We can show side by side there. I know the axles are a little rusted, but this is the only car in the set that gets formally used Silver Series rims, the little Porsche-inspired wheels, which is fine. I'm sure they're trying to emulate these, and those don't do a bad job at it. But yeah, you can see what I'm talking about with the plastic dye being a little distracting. Like, it's barely red. It's more of a brown, and I don't know. It doesn't sit completely right with me. This is also the retooled casting, which eliminates the engine being a separate piece that sits, and actually part of the grille that sits in top here, actually separate from the interior, but it's still chrome. So in order to kind of mock it up, they added the top brace here, which originally was part of the headers, but now they kind of just smoothed it out. They stopped the connection. The grille, I don't actually mind if it's part of the body, because they can actually do the details on it, and I like the look of that. Got your turbine in the back there. Side exit exhaust. Super cool. And then the Muscle Maniacs graphics and logo on the side. They're such an awesome car. And most of my, actually all of my original cars on hand here are Muscle Maniacs. There's Pork Chop's car. There's Torque. I love Torque. That was Mikey's car, right? And then Monkey's car. Mikey and Monkey. Well, yeah. Look at that. These two kind of match now. The browns. Love that. Need the Roadrunner next, which, of course, is driven by the same guy, but I dropped one of them on the floor. I know, I'm making an attempt. Is it noticeable that this is not my realm and I'm a little out of my typical zone here, but I just really wanted to show these because I love them. Next, we'll go to Galora's car, RD09. There she is, looking... yeah. She's the villain, of course, the leader of the racing drones. You kind of find that out in Highway 35. That was one of the plot twists. I'm sorry, but hopefully you knew. But yeah, this is her car. This is her chariot. The most aggressive looking racing drone. And this one's pretty heavy. This one's very cool. So it's got a metal base, but it's also got the big metal engine on the back here, which is cool to see. And these fins across the back here are part of the metal base, so don't step on this. It's kind of like, the front end of this kind of reminds me of the Chicane, which is another Acceleracers car. Hopefully that one returns. I don't think they've used that casting in a long time. I think it was in the color changers for a little bit, but kind of disappeared. But yeah, here is RD09, the big boss of the racing drones. These cars are so over-designed, it's funny. It's just, oh, they're robots. They can do whatever they want. You got headlights down there, not detailed. I think, yeah, the Hollowback and the Iridium are the only two with actual headlight details. The silhouette, or still calling it the silhouette. Slingshot has pop-up headlights, which is pretty cool. Only seen the show, of course. They don't really emulate that very well on the diecast. Like, they're just smooth. You can't tell that there's any pop-up lights there. But yeah, this thing's cool. This one gets the green wheels. So, okay, yeah, the Slingshot got black wheels, which I'm sure is a reference to the fact it was from Highway 35, which was a little more realistic, most of it. Other than the realms. The Hollowback also gets black wheels. So this one gets green. The drones, I think the drones had green wheels. Yeah, they did, because there was a whole part where the human teams stole them from the drones and re-engineered the technology. Yeah, but this thing's cool and pretty heavy. I love the metal. Even though it's got a plastic body, the metal engine and the metal base really make up for it. And it is a completely new tooling. RD09 made in Thailand. And finally, the one everybody's been talking about, the Reverb. Because this is also a brand new casting, but it features something that an Acceleracers casting has never seen before. Metal on metal. Actually, the Slingshot might have been in its early days. I think the Slingshot had a metal chassis too. But man, this thing is heavy, and I absolutely love it. Look at that. That's a big metal base and a big metal body. It's a long car. And actually, well, before we continue on the metal base here, I love the little Easter egg. There's the little jet boosters, which is something that the Teku cars kind of kept, or at least Vert's car, because the Wave Ripper cars from Highway 35 had the jet boosters to kind of like emulate surfing. That was one of each car had its own gimmick, and that was the Wave Ripper's gimmick, was the boosters on the bottom. So that kind of transpired into Vert's car here, the Reverb. Now the big theory is that this is because Dr. Tesla used to work with the silencers, which we find that out pretty quick when the silencer starts showing up and he realizes what's going on. And he stole equipment from them, and the fan theory is this is one of the cars. Now, is there a way to confirm that? No. Maybe we're going to find out in the 5th episode that never happened. But this supposedly, probably, at some point, was supposed to look like this in the Acceleracers timeline before the movies. This had pink windows and gray paint. And I believe someone made a custom of that following the fan theory, which makes total sense if you think about it. this car came from the same bay that Tesla's car was in, and his is just flat out stolen. He didn't change anything about it. You can tell it's a silencer car. We got the orange windows that peek through on the headlights there. Very nice paintwork. No metallic, just a pastel color. Number 7. Or is it number 9? And the world's smallest taillights. You got your exhaust on the back there. And yeah, totally surreal holding this vehicle in person. Blue wheels in reference to the show. Just listen to the... That's a heavy car. In aspect to this, kind of. Oh yeah, don't drop your toys. Sorry, they're not toys. These are monumental. Let's line them up. I don't think I have anything else to say. Clean off the debris. Well, here. That looks better. And I really don't want her car in front. There we go, guys. That is the first Acceleracers set. Hopefully there's another one to come. We all can hope. And I will certainly do another video and make a bunch of more errors, because most of my knowledge resides in the Saab 94X. This is not sponsored by the Saab 94X. You cannot buy one at the dealers. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. The fans can roast me in the comments because maybe I deserve it. See you all in the next one. Bye, guys.